Like a 3, 2, 1, go. It is another week in startup. There is so much happening. I don't even know where to start. We have one of our companies that just got another term sheet through for $7 million. I have multiple companies that are growing at over 200% growth. And I know the world is in turmoil. We are midway through August, and all we hear is bad news from outside and bad news with the economy and everything else. But in truth, things are really good. And I want to talk through a little bit this morning about the structure of how you all should be thinking about growing your business. And I also want you to know that everything I talk about on this show is really mirrored in what we do ourselves. This isn't a book. I'm not going to give you a bunch of information that I read from elsewhere. It's all about, like, what do I see working within how Expert Dojo is growing? And what do I see working in the 300 or so companies that we've invested in and watching them growing? And also what is not working on the other side. So let me start first of all with the company that just got a $7 million term sheet, because it's a really interesting story. And so the fund that they have just received, and so first of all, let me give a context. I'm going to give two contexts. I actually want to start, if I can, each one of these sessions with mindset, because I just believe more and more that it's sometimes you can be right, sometimes you can be on the wrong side of right, and sometimes you're on the right side of right, but it just takes a little bit longer. And because it takes a little bit longer, it is brutalizing. And because it's brutalizing, you can reach a stage where you just can't make it. And that's all mindset. And it's all about where you are, what space you're in, and what are the things that are affecting that space. It's also what you prepared for at the very beginning. So this particular company, the founder has fought his way through on many levels. A great founder, not the best person at raising money, and he would be the first person to admit that. But that means these things are going to take a little bit longer. But it also means that when you get there, you've got a far better positioning on the chessboard. And so we had put it out to a bunch of investors before, and one or two had come through, and one or two had fallen back. And then he just got a random referral to an investor who actually is very good in the space. I looked at the investor afterwards. We didn't know the investor ourselves beforehand. Then I looked at the investor afterwards, and I'm like, yeah, this is a good fit. But these people are very obscure. They were kind of hidden away. It was someone who had done really well and their partner, and they set up a fund, and it was based in AI. And that fund just happened to be a really good fit right now. And after us going through a grueling process with so many other investors and so many people asking a bunch of questions, which, like, in my mind, were kind of questions for the sake of being able to find a reason to say no. This one investor came in and they're just like, it's great. I love the company. I love the founder. I love where you are right now. We will invest. And so how do you prescribe to that? How do you prescribe either an outreach strategy or a mindset strategy to be able to do that? Because these guys are just one of 10,000 investors out there. Well, I think the first thing is I got this great advice that I've mentioned before, but it's worth reinforcing again, because it helps me so much in how I run Expert Dojo and in everything else I do. And that is that whatever sport you play, whether you play soccer, whether you play American football, whether you play baseball, whatever it is that you play, whenever you miss a shot, maybe you're taking a swing at the bat for the ball and you miss it and you're like, oh, that is the worst. What is wrong with me that I keep missing these shots? And what that does is it reinforces a negative action, something that has gone wrong, that hasn't worked. Now, what does that tell your mind? It tells your mind that actually things are really bad with your stroke. You don't have the perfect stroke. Things are not perfect. And you're not perfect. It's probably not going to be perfect the next time. And it's crazy, because how can something so basic and so banal have such a huge effect? But it does. And in the same way that affects us in sport, it affects us the same way with investors. If in our mind we're continually reinforcing, I don't like investors. Investors aren't good. Investors aren't going to invest into me. I'm not going to spend all of my time. Oh, I've gone reaching out to all these investors and they haven't come back to us. If that constantly is what I have in my mind, then that's what's going to happen. And maybe I get very lucky. Maybe like I do a huge growth increase or something else. But generally speaking, it's going to consume 50% of my opportunity. And I made this very, very small shift in my game. And that small shift was to say, in the game of tennis, I miss a forehand, I knock it in the net, and I say, I have a great forehand, but I specifically redo the thing correctly that I did wrong. So maybe I didn't move into the ball correctly. So now I would say, I have incredible footwork. I just moved into the ball, and look at how beautifully I hit it. Even though technically I didn't in that stroke, in my mind I did. And it's the same thing with investors. And the thing is, it doesn't work on its own. It doesn't work just saying it. You have to actually go through the motion of doing it properly the way it is. But you never reinforce negative. You always reinforce positive. You are the captain of your ship. And that means that there are people looking to you. And if it's maybe not tennis, maybe it's soccer, maybe it's American football, where there's an entire team around you. How you are acting and what you are doing to fix the things that are not working is important. And so if you're saying, no investors want to invest in my project, investors are terrible, well, that's not it. There are actually lots of investors out there who want to invest in your project, but you need to make sure you're reinforcing the right thing that you need to correct so that those investors will invest in your project. So like, for example, what an incredible pitch I just did to those investors. I specifically like how I spoke about the financial opportunity to the investor, because maybe in that pitch you didn't hit it so hard, but now that you've reinforced it in your head, what you're going to do the next time, it will force you to create a better pitch around that. And you may not even know 100% that it was the financial aspects, that what was the piece that you underscored on. Maybe it was the team was the piece that you underscored on. Maybe it was the revenue that was the piece that you overscored on. But it changes your mindset in a very positive way. It positions you in a place where you're thinking, maybe you don't have any revenue. Maybe you say to me, Brian, I just started doing the sales. They're not investing because there wasn't enough revenue in there. Great. You know what that's going to make you do? It's going to make you drive revenue harder, because it's going to force you into the area. Remember, investment is not a one-night stand. It's not finding an investment on a Tuesday and closing the money on a Wednesday. Investment generally takes 9 months. The same as mastering a sport. It's not something that you can do straight away unless it's pickleball. A pickleball most definitely is not a sport. But any real sports, it takes time to master the sport. And so you have to work towards correcting the things. This is just probability. Imagine it like this. If I went to every investor I knew and said to them, I can get you Tesla shares at the day that they launched, everybody would come and want Tesla shares from me, right? Now, that's an obvious win. If I went to everybody at the very beginning of Tesla and said everybody should involve in Tesla, then most investors would say no. So when is the moment that Tesla becomes a great opportunity for everyone? Well, it's probably not at the beginning for some people, no matter what we do, no matter what we reinforce. But if Tesla grows at the trajectory that they did grow at, there is a moment where it seems like a good deal for everyone. And that's what you're doing. You're managing this universe of tens of thousands of investors. If we actually look up the term investor on PitchBook or even LinkedIn, take LinkedIn as an easy way to do it, and you looked up the term investor, my guess is there's a couple of million people, maybe tens of millions of people who technically have the name investor in their title. And actually, that's probably a small fraction of the people who are actually potential investors in your company. Because many of the people who invest in a company don't have anything there that indicates that they're even a potential investor, but they are, because they fall in love with what you're doing. And now you have this universe here, and then you know that there's maybe, let's say that there's 5 pieces to take into account when you're looking for success, right? The first piece is how many people you outreach to. Well, if you only outreach to a couple of people a day, then the chances of you finding that perfect investor are, of course, very little. So what you might say when you wake up on a Tuesday morning is, I am so pleased with my investment game. I'm so pleased because now I'm looking to invest in lots and lots and lots of founders, right? Then you might say, well, actually, the conversion is the next piece. And then on the conversion that we have, maybe we say, okay, great. I am so pleased with my investment game because I increased my emphasis on the team. I increased my emphasis on the sales. I increased the sales themselves. I increased my emphasis on the messaging. I increased my emphasis on the financial outcome. I increased my emphasis on the IRR. You don't necessarily know that each of these are absolutely true, but you know that there's a good chance that one or two of them are true. And by hitting them, it will force you to move into that area. It will take you away from a place of negativity. Maybe another area is building domain dominance. I'm a huge fan of Epic Productions. You all know that, in building your domain dominance. I think you can't really start doing it till you get past Horizon 1 and you hit Horizon 2. But when you hit Horizon 2, you can start doing Epic Productions one after another, and that will help you build up from domain authority to domain awareness to domain dominance, right? And then the next one is maybe your product itself. Sometimes our product is not as good as our product needs to be for investors to put money into it. That's just the truth. In which case we would say, I have an excellent product. 10 of my companies have said they love my product, and that will reinforce that you go out looking for testimonials and fan tributes from those companies. And then the final piece for me is the systems and the headspace and the mindset, which is the piece that we're going through right now. But it's really the systems around that, which is that people look at your organization and it looks like a damn mess. And you're like, okay, cool. I have a great organization. And I know this stuff seems silly. And genuinely, this whole thing may feel very Tony Robbins-y in some way, but it works when associated with actually implementing the positive change that you're looking to do. I don't believe in this stuff on its own. I think if you do it on its own and then you expect the world to manifest, a beautiful mansion on a beach somewhere, then you're on fucking drugs, right? But if you align this with being actually doing the work to build a great company and have your customers fall in love with what you're doing, then the same thing for outreach to investors will equal the same thing for outreach to customers. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I am going to bring one of our great founders who we're going to talk about this mindset a little bit. We're also going to talk about building beautiful products and actually constantly, and I think my thesis for today was really, it was about the mindset to creating abundance within building venture backable startups, but also the mindset to persevering through. Right? Because that's the hard piece, to be able to make it to the end. And we know that almost on every great founder story, there's this trial and tribulation of, oh my gosh, when we started Airbnb and we were sleeping on our floor and things were really, really, really difficult. And then we had this breakthrough moment. And kind of my intention in this first 15 minutes or so on the stream is to make sure that you don't miss out on the piece of that breakthrough because you gave up too early. But it's also to make sure that you don't stay on a journey that nothing is reinforcing in the physical world the positive energy that you're putting behind it. It's this happy place on both. The company I'm going to bring in next are part of the Expert Dojo portfolio. Founder is a great friend of mine, someone who has broken through the $1 million mark on revenue, incredible sales, driven it himself, a general from the center, and somebody who I believe has got one of the strongest mindsets towards being able to search out that abundance wherever it comes from. So come on in, Sam.
Hey, Brian, how's it going?
I'm bloody fine, thanks. So I think you heard a bit of that.
Excellent. I sure did.
And like, that's you, right? I mean, Axel AI, the building of the company, everything that you've done, like, that's you.
Hey, so far so good. I did have a couple of co-founders, and they've been with us through the journey as well. So I can't completely claim credit. And now we're up to like more than 20 people. So I really can't take credit. But there you are.
And you're still on the journey. And that's why this is so important for people to watch. Like, this isn't looking back from 15 years ago when you built out a great company. This is you on the journey right now. And everybody on this stream, what they're looking for is a few things. They're looking for the secrets that you have that have allowed you to persevere and break through to the stage. They're looking to try and find out the marketing methodologies that you're using to be able to break through. I really think in your case, I think mindset and actually perseverance is a marketing is a marketing channel in a weird
Yep,
way.
it
For
is. I
yourself.
think that's right. I think that is definitely the case for us. Yeah. Yeah.
And so you built it out. You built it from zero. You now have how many customers?
Over 1,000.
Incredible, right? And you
Yeah.
built those customers up through a multitude of different channels that we're going to dig into. Start off by telling us a little bit about Axle AI, and then we're going to talk about a lot of the stuff you've done, because literally this is a Christmas tree list of marketing channels being tested, tried, following the stuff that's working, backing off the other things. Like, you've done everything from being on Drapers to
Right.
crowdfunding to shows, events, trade shows, outreach, corporate accounts. Like,
Right. We even did we did a couple of viral videos as well. So I can talk about it. I mean, been
you
there,
jumped
done
in
that.
and out of hoops on your viral videos. I remember.
Indeed. It did.
Yay.
That's right.
Yeah. Tell us about Axle AI first, though, just so everybody has some context.
Sure thing. So what Axle AI does is we use AI to help people search and repurpose large amounts of professional video. And that video can be corporate, sports. We have a lot of churches that are customers, government organizations, and of course, the obvious suspects are people like broadcasters and movie studios. Although surprisingly, our business is about 80% of the former and only about 20% of the broadcasters and movie studios, which, because you think huge amounts of video, who has it? It's changed dramatically over the time that we've been in business.
Interesting.
We started in 2018. Back then, almost anybody that would have had the large amounts of video would have been in that industry specifically. Now, video is being accumulated in the most unpredictable places and in huge amounts.
Yeah, actually, I did a blog about this only this weekend, talking about, the whole wrong side of right or right side of right, and about how you can have the right product, right purpose, right market fit, right ICP, right everything, but your red box, right, and your red box on the blockbuster, and that was cool, except for the fact that Netflix are just about to come. So even though you break through, you're doomed, because the end is nigh. And even though I think we talk about Kodaks a lot, like when we go through lessons, they still had a great run, though, right? They still had an amazing run. They built $1 billion company. They did great on it. And so this whole race against time is an incredibly important thing. So let's start with today, your favorite methodologies for going after customers. And as I said, you and I are very alike. You lead, you're a general, you lead right from the center. You're in battle. You don't like pass out trade shows for people to go to, or if you do, it's because you can't make it over there. Like, you're in the middle. I actually remember one time, I think it was a Tech Week or something, where you arrived with your banner and you're like, somebody always doesn't turn up, Brian. So I'm going to bring this thing in here, and I'm going to find that somebody hasn't turned up at, and I'm going to plant myself there. And sure as night follows day, there was a couple of people who hadn't turned up. And as long as it's 11 o'clock in the morning, it's safe.
I don't want to actively recommend that to folks, but if you're doing guerrilla marketing, yes, any trade show you would think about going to, chances are there'll be some empty booths. Only once or twice have I really gotten in trouble for it.
Yeah.
And usually on those occasions you can apologize and sort of roll up your banner and go away. But and
it's funny, and
it is funny.
The thing is, like,
actually, you can turn it into a social media post. I've never really thought of that, but if I had somebody there, I was like, here's our boss packing up his tents and going home because he tried to use a trade show booth that was conveniently unoccupied.
Who's not going to respect you for this? I think it's one of the greatest hacks of all time. Like, you turn up in a place, and even if I'm the organizer of the event, like, actually the weird thing from a logical perspective, you've done me a favor, because there's not a booth which is empty.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. It's going to be an embarrassment otherwise. Yeah.
So cool. And so everybody, I am actively recommending it. I am saying, if there is anyone here and you're thinking, oh, Brian, it's really hard, I can't afford to go to, like, you won't, in the huge conventions, it won't work. Oh, at least it's harder to work, right?
It can work. Yeah, but you have to be really.
They don't. God, I can't believe
Yeah,
I said that. That's so wrong. That's like me saying to my kid, you can't do that. No, look, it's harder because
it
the
is harder.
sports glamorous and they're bigger and the boots are not. But like you pick like a tech day, tech week, tech anything, like with a relatively, an exhibition hall with lots of people there. You go in there, you have your backpack on, you stick a little banner in there, you make sure it's like it's something you can jerry rig up. And within 5 minutes or so, you can have your flyers on the table, your tablecloth on, your banner there. And to your point, you can turn it into a great social media post because you can say, look, I'm here. I'm at the expo. There was an open booth. I've come in. This is what we do to be able to break through. Then you
Right.
tag 20 or 30 investors, and it's probably the best investor outreach you will ever do. What that says to me as an investor, that person is a killer, like stone cold killer.
So yep. And we have graduated. I'm proud to say that we have graduated to actually being able to afford our booths. But that being said, those were fun days, definitely.
Yeah, and it's all about being able to like be never have I started at the beginning speaking from a place of things can most of the things that we don't do or we can't do come from a place of can't, impossible, not no money, no investment, no anything. And I think what this just brings up is there are an awful lot of things like once we step away from our ego and from our the arrogance of that can sometimes come in with startup when we start something, it's like really powerful. So Sam, talk to me about other things.
All
I
right.
want to talk about other growth hacks as well, other things that you're doing that have worked really well for you.
So I will say that viral video, which came out just when around the time that COVID was hitting, we ended up with about 400,000 views of that, and it took some production work, so it is not trivial to do. But if you think that there's a way to tell your story that can fit within a 30-second video, and you think you can shoot that video and kind of work with your colleagues, then I would I would strongly recommend doing that. Um, and you don't. It doesn't have to be
Talk to me about what that is because I think everybody when people think of viral videos, they think about the Dollar Shave Club. And yours was
right.
very well produced. I remember it well. I think it
Thanks.
was about a year, 2 years ago, but it was very well produced. But people think about Dollar Shave Club and like how they created that video. And of course, that in no small way turned Dollar Shave Club directly into a unicorn, right? Everything followed after that. It definitely wasn't the product. Like it was, although there is a discussion around how they packaged the product, but it
Yep.
wasn't the product itself. It was just a plastic piece of garbage, right? But
Yep.
so they created this video, people came in behind the video, people aligned with the video, and they did it. And actually, if anybody really wants to follow that story through, you start with Dollar Shave Club and then you go to Dollar Beard Club. And if you look up Dollar Beard Club video, it's the same people who did it.
Hmm.
And Dollar Shave Club is all about, you have a shave, they give you the best shave, but then they made it funny and they brought in all kinds of things that I don't even know are legal to put on a video today. And then Dollar Beard Club was from the same people talking about any man who doesn't have a beard is not a real man. Like literally, it's the same company saying something equally wrong, but
Right.
equally funny because it's just the opposite to what the same brand, a different brand, is actually for. So I think like talk to us a little bit about what you're putting it together. And I know you're adding notes in for things to talk about, but just avoid the typing if you can,
Oh,
because it
will
just
do. Oh, because it jiggles the screen. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So look, so hit us with the thoughts on you created the video. How did you create it? How much money did you spend on it?
Yep.
And what was it specifically you were trying to accomplish?
So what we were trying to do was just literally let people know we existed. Like, hi, we're here. And we didn't have a huge budget, right? So you're really talking about being up against companies with, significant venture capital backing, that kind of thing. Uh, and we knew that we had a unique story to tell. So we brainstormed it. We kind of, sat around for a number of hours trying to figure out how to convey the message, where to convey the message, who should be in the video. We ended up really having a whole cast and crew, including, a professional director, professional DP. We found a lot of those people on Craigslist, including the cast. We basically did the whole thing on Craigslist.
Hang on, let me just hold that for a sec. You found these people on Craigslist. So,
Yep.
and by the way, anybody watching this video, it's a very, where can they see the video so people can get a feel? It's a very high production video.
I will try and get the link. It's already been a couple of years, so it's not right there on our website. But actually, if you go to axleai.com and scroll down, I'll type even though I'm not supposed to type. But if you axleai.com, if you go to that homepage, then you should be able to scroll down, and I believe it's there. Anyway, but
very high production, and then you went on Craigslist. And how much were you offering to pay on Craigslist? And what kind of people?
Minimum wage, extra type stuff. Obviously, for the DP and the director, we paid a bit more than that. We also had to rent a studio, because what we came up with was this idea that somebody in a studio has just finished a shoot, and then what do? They're going to have all this footage. And so we kind of took them from that moment that the shoot ends to, what do I do now? How does it get edited? And so we ended up with a single tracking shot, and we found actually a comedian, a very good actor, to be our lead. We then found extras to do different roles. One of them said he by chance he offered up that he was a juggler. And we thought that was something we could use. So we had him juggling hard drives as part of the kind of exposition. We had someone with a hula hoop, and she was so it was like as this guy walked through the shot, you had the guy juggling the hard drive. First of all, there was the end of the shoot, and someone with a clapper saying cut. Then somebody juggling these hard drives, somebody else with the hula hoops, somebody else editing the footage. And as he's walking past all these people and the camera is tracking with them, he's describing the challenges that they have and what you're going to go through. And so it was all very first person, and we really scripted it like very, very precisely, so that there would be no gaps, and it was as tight as possible. And actually, there are some interesting insights that we now work with a lot of YouTubers, so I'm starting to understand better the science behind making viral videos, which is also really interesting. But we decided to do it in a single shot. It took a whole day. We rented a space. We actually got it on the very last take. Like we were like, oh, we got to do one more. We got to do one, because we were going to cut two together. We had some with a good start, some with a good finish, but it would look bad. I'm like, we're going to keep doing this till we get it in one take, 30-second tracking shot. And we did it. But we were fine tuning the script, and the actor was having trouble remembering his lines. So we would do a perfect take, and we get to the very end, and he's going to fumble the line. It was terrible. So I was like, oh, we got to do it all over again. Then the juggler couldn't drop it. There were a lot of things that had to go right. But, by about, I think we ended up checking out there at around 3 p.m. that day, we only had the studio for a fixed period of time. So there were not more takes to be had. Anyway, that's the story. And
I love it. And I want to dig into a couple of parts of the story. And so for context for everyone, the thing about Axel, what makes it so great is you can find anything, anywhere on a video, like real fast, right? And so imagine one of the large publishers of videos that has like hundreds and thousands of hours of videos. Maybe it's a politician and they're looking to try and find the word the swamp, right? And they're like, I want to, where's the word the swamp mentioned? It's like Axel can go boom, 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 boom. And you suddenly have, it's mentioned 5,000 times here. Okay, where does it say the swamp? And like the Democrats are going to do blah, 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 blah. Or when has it got the swamp and the thing? And they'd be like, okay, there's 5 of these. And suddenly like days and days and days of searching for stuff is broken down to a small period. And so what they're trying to get across in this video is the whole point that you can spend your entire time juggling through all these different hard drives, navigating through ridiculous systems, or you can be really smart and use Axel. And they get it across in a very, very, very visual way. And I love this for a couple of things. I want to give you a moment to think about some of the viral tips that you can give that you've subsequently learned from YouTube, and some of the pieces that worked in the tip. But I want to say before, as while Sam's thinking of that, for everybody here, the way you build a really great startup is at the beginning, you have no choice. It's grueling and horrible and tough. And you got to go door to door and you got to go customer to customer and you got to find out like problem after problem on your company and your product and your it's just the way we all have to live. There's no real choice. Some people get through that piece in a period of a year to 2 years. Very few though. Most people are 3 to 5 years to go through that period. It is just a fucking grueling, gnarly, horrible period of time. Most people get divorced during. Okay, like that's it. But then when you make it through, you start working on your Horizon 2. And Horizon 2 is all about building influence through epic productions, right? And that influence is really huge. And you can't do it the same way. You can't do it one-on-one. You have to do big things, big events. And when I say productions, don't confuse it for a video production. That could be one of the productions, but you could do anything. Like there's 1,000 things you can do. You can create your own conferences. You could write a book. You can build a huge partnership with somebody who's an influencer in a space and announce but you have to do epic productions. It's the only way. Think of it like the turbo in the car that brings you from like 120, which is your max speed, to 180. If you don't do it, literally, you can't. It's very hard. I don't say can't. It's very hard to win the war against time because you just get too tired. Just normal mere mortals are just jaded at this stage. And so you need stuff that will boost you up, that just gets your mindset stuck in a really good positive space. So that's why I love this stuff. You have to do it. The ones who do it, they dominate. My favorite company, I think, other than Liquid Death are animal at doing this. One production after another production after another after another. It's just water. That's all it was. They're incredible at doing this. Brex, though, if you want to take like a tech company, Brex did this in a huge way. Pretty much no product. Well, kind of, sort of. No, actually, I was right. No products, right? But they put billboards all around San Francisco in front of every single VC's office, and they raised $350 million plus because VCs are not that smart. We are not that smart. And if we see billboards everywhere for a company and we're like, well, I'm not invested in that company. Like, how come? And why didn't they come to me? Well, that's not right. Well, I better find out who the founder is. And so suddenly billboards, buses, everything else, it just exploded out. And they looked at the cost of advertising as a cost of raising investment. Very, very, very brilliant. So I wanted to underscore some of the things that you're doing here as like monstrously important. And so please, any viral stuff you got, and then I'm going to kick in with a few questions that are coming in from the crowd.
Fantastic. Yeah. So on the viral side, certainly that video worked great. I will say also, do a lot of posts. I mean, it sounds obvious, but if something strikes you as interesting or quirky or fun, don't hesitate. Just put it out there. I've got to the point at this point on LinkedIn where, if I see something that I think will be at least a conversation starter, even if it's not directly about our product, I'll post it. And I think people enjoy that, as long as you don't turn into, what was it Obama said, the guy with the leaf blower outside your window who's just like on all the time. So, you don't want to be that guy, but I think within reason, you want to be above people's threshold of awareness. And doing that on a small budget is really an art form. We do use trade shows a lot. I think one of the questions that just came in was, how many exhibitions do you do per year? I'd be happy to answer. We typically only do like 4 or 5 exhibitions a year, and 2 of them are really big in our industry, which is in
I think we lost Sam there. Did we lose Sam? I think we lost Sam. Okay, let me answer the question that Sam is so desperately trying to answer. He'll come back in a sec, right? So on exhibitions, and I want to talk about this for a second because I think it's like it's an important piece on like how you build this up for yourself and make sure you do it. First of all, what not prescribing is you do everything all of the time for everyone. I had an email through from one of our investors on the weekend, and he's like, why don't you do this exhibition that happens in LA? And I'm like, well, even though it seems like it's for entrepreneurs, and even though there's a lot of entrepreneurs there, they're not venture scalable entrepreneurs. So it's not a good fit for us. So we will not be going. And so I think you got to boil the ocean a little bit at the beginning to get you, especially in Horizon 1, to get yourself to a place to find out which are the good exhibitions for you to actually go to. I think assumptions can be the worst thing that you can make at the start. My feedback on that particular expo is because I was at that expo before. So I know what the expo is like. I know the quality of the entrepreneurs, and I know how many of them could potentially be good for us. I also know the value of a whole day and like what I actually can do on that particular day. And so from your side of it, what you constantly want to do is be able to come back in and say, I'll just say to Sam, no. And what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to come in and say, okay, how am I going to break down the use of my time? If you decide to go after exhibitions, how do I make sure that I have it tied into a proper ROI? And I want to back this in. I'll bring Sam back in a couple of seconds, but I want to back this in to something that's really important. Most founders come out of the gates with one of two things happening. Either come out guns blazing, go after everything. You know, I wake up in the morning, I'm going to do 4 networking events today. I'm going to do 3 panels I'm going to go to. And then I'm going to come back in really hard, right? The second way that they come in is they don't do it, right? And so there's a third way. And on the third way is all about, and Shashank, if you can tell Sam, I'll let him back in a couple of seconds, okay? I just want to go through this. But on the third way, this is about highly quantifying what activities are required to get yourself to the meetings that you need, to get yourself to the sales revenue that is necessary for you to be successful, right? You have to do that. And then when you do that, then you put yourself in a place where you can say, okay, now that I know what that number is, I know that I have to touch 1,000 people or 100 people or 30 people or 5,000 people. Now I know that there are all these channels that I can go after, right? I have one channel, which is, let me bring Sam back in. So the poor guy's not left all out on his own. Okay, so Sam, you're back in again. So I'm just explaining something going on top of what was asked just before you got cut off, right? So when you're looking at the channels you're coming after, you want to be highly scientific going after these channels. And so if you know, one channel is LinkedIn outreach, another channel is email outreach, another channel is exhibit at certain exhibit halls or go to conferences. Another channel is build up partnerships. Another channel is build up affiliates. Another channel is social media. Another channel is SEO. Another channel is blogs. Another channel is content marketing. Another channel is paid media search. Another channel is paid social search. So you have all of these channels that you know can contribute to 100 people, the 500 people, the thousands of people that you actually require every single year. And so by doing that, take that back down again. By doing that, you can now say, okay, now that I know that we have that, now that I know that's the number, let me test with the individual companies. And then you win. Because you then are knowing that if you go to a conference, you're going to do everything you possibly can to be successful at that conference, rather than just going and attending at the conference itself. So, okay, let's see what else Sam has for us. Right, Sam, you're back in.
All right, we're back. I think, Safari crapped out on me there.
Yeah, you're okay. So I finished off the piece on the exhibitions, which is the amount of exhibitions that you go to is very similar to the amount of romantic partners that you need to meet to actually find the right one. You need to just make sure that you're looking for the very best with the right criteria first, and then work your way backwards, okay? So if you go to one conference and you do it incredibly well with highly metric-based KPIs, that is better than going to 20 and just standing at a booth and expecting people to come by you. If you have very specific, quantifiable metrics for how many people you want to touch from the people. That is better than going to 10 of them and making sure that you just like walk around the room and go after it. Quantify what you're trying to achieve and then come from it and then learn from that and then use that to get better at the next conference and use that to get better at the next thing. That's how you build it out. So absolutely. I like that a lot.
I will also say, I mean, obviously post-COVID, trade shows have been coming back sluggishly. They still exist and they're still very viable, but they're off typically 30-40% from what they used to be in attendance. And so you just have to factor that in as well. Like your bang for the buck may not be quite as good as it used to be in doing a trade show. On the other hand, people that go to trade shows really want to be there.
Yes. You know? And that's what I want to look at, because I actually had a call with this great growth hacker this week. That's the other kind of privilege I have, is I'm always interviewing other growth hackers who are like so much better. And this lady gave me like the most interesting feedback of ever. She's like, look, I have been growth hacking since the days of like Qualcomm, T-Mobile, and I've built up telemarketing teams, emailing teams, affiliate teams, everything teams. And I am telling you, the old is new again. People are getting sick of emails, but they are not getting sick of voice, right? The pandemic hurt us on a level that we don't even know how to express. And I believe this is the same with the expos as well. So with the expos that we have going on, more people now go to expos with higher expectations of results and engaging with people than ever before. Pre-pandemic, maybe people just went to it for the sake of it. Maybe people didn't really want to speak to people. Now everybody's going hardcore, which means that higher level of engagement is going to be a high level of conversion. So I am hugely bullish on cold calling, and I am hugely bullish on events, expos, all of that kind of stuff, as long as you approach it like an outbound activity and not like the world owes you a favor while you're standing there at your booth playing God.
Standing there is definitely not the thing to do. And, you know, you have to know before you go to the show, hopefully you have some contact with the demographic that's going to be there, with the vertical that you're targeting, and that you have like the tools to reach those people ahead of time and say, come see us at such and such booth. Because if they're just wandering around, you know, you're going to get like 1% of the attendees who happen to see you. And then out of those 1%, maybe only 20% will give a hoot what you do. And then out of those 20, you know, you're really, really slicing it pretty thin. Whereas if you can message it aggressively ahead of time and have people coming to your booth, because like, for instance, we were at the NAB show this spring, the very first morning of the show, guy walked up to our booth within like 20 minutes of the show opening and said, I just got off my flight and you're the first meeting I'm going to have here at the show. And, you know, I came here in large part to meet with you. I mean, obviously that's who you want at the booth, not like, oh, what do you guys do? Oh, you know, how's it going? This kind of thing.
And by the way, the stuff you're talking about, actually, I love that we're focused on this. Let me take this back down for a second, because I just want to stay on networking for a moment, because people do it so amazingly badly. At a minimum, here's what your base stakes are, everybody. You have to make sure that everybody who is speaking at a conference or at an event or whatever you're going to, that you've written to those people, period, right? You have to make sure that you have a campaign. If it's a LinkedIn campaign, an email campaign, it's super easy. You've got automated campaigns with Cleverly. You got automated campaigns with Hunter.io. You got automated campaigns you can do with Apollo. You should be writing to people in the area within your demographic to say, I will be in your city in the 15th of November. I would love to meet with you because I'm going to be there, right? And you give them a compelling reason in a very, 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 very short outreach, because they don't know you and they're not giving you a huge amount of time to be able to do it. Number three, your campaign should be multimedia faceted. It should not just be email. Email is too hard. So whether you do email and DMs, or maybe you reach out on Instagram, or you reach out on Facebook, or you reach out on LinkedIn, like you got to make it multifaceted, because people don't just read one communication. The next thing is, if you see all of the exhibitors at the place, then the chances are most of these people can be partners of sorts. And so
Sure.
you're reaching out to the exhibitors to say, all before you go. And by the way, that is irrespective of whether you have a booth or whether you don't. But if you have a booth, then it just makes it easier to be able to do it. I actually have one of our companies who are going to a very, very, very prominent expo in San Francisco, maybe the biggest in the world in this particular sector. And they're scraping the entire list of attendees.
Mhm.
Wrong, but right.
Yeah.
Right side or right. So, yeah. What anything else, Sam? I don't want to do it to death, but I just think like these networking events, these expos, these things, they're so huge. And everyone I go to, I see the same people standing because they're nervous and they don't want to approach people, and because they don't want to go to the booths, or they have a booth and they wait for people to come to them. And it's such a missed opportunity. Even if you don't have a booth and you're just paying the price of entry, it is still a monster missed opportunity.
Well, and one thing I will say is if you're going to have a booth, have a handout, right? So have some 3x5 cards or a little fold out. And that way, as people walk by, you can hand them something. And it should be designed as a conversation starter. Like the cover of it should just be like a question or something topical to get a conversation started. Because otherwise, the default inclination of anyone walking by is just to keep walking by. Even if they're potentially interested in what you do, they're not going to stop unless you give them a socially acceptable way to stop. And you'd say, well, why? No, they're just going to keep going. They don't know you. They don't know your product. So you have to hook them a little bit and just stand there handing these things out. As long as it has a bit of a sense of humor to it and some engagement, then it'll work great. And only 1 out of 3 people will stop or ask a question, but that's way more than would have stopped if you just let them walk by.
And look, you can take this as far as you want. Look, take the first two pieces, and then I'm gonna let Sam finish off. We're gonna talk about. I want him to also just think about like anything else that you did. And for investors who are listening, this is the type of entrepreneur that you want to invest into. These companies that they have as customers, they're not like small freemium customers. These are companies that are paying money for a highly integrated AI tool that they cannot do without. And many of these are Fortune 500 and Fortune 1000 companies that are paying every single month for access to the tool. All of these organizations were built up, and they were built up through corporate account outreach, through email outreach, through LinkedIn outreach, through going to the exhibitions to make sure they were there, reinforcing then by doing viral videos where they found the people on Craigslist, and the video is excellent quality. So for 10% of what it would usually cost to produce an incredible video, they did it and they got it out to market. And then it's about like, how do you make that video viral and how do you get it out there as well? So you can see all of these integrated things are happening. But I want to just underpin this with the point that I made a moment ago that growth hacker said. The old is new again. It is those founders who are gritty, who are out there fighting, who are out there looking for new people all of the time, and then creating really good integrated systems to be able to maintain contact for when they are ready for them. They're continue to getting the messages through. They will be the founders that will win over the next 5 to 10 years, period, guarantee, no question about it. So be that founder. Look at the expos, the events, the things that are happening in your area. Look at the highest profile ones, the ones that can give you the best return. Look at the people who are coming, align them as partners, affiliates, customers, whatever else it's going to be. Build an integrated approach to be able to get these people on your side. Let them find out about you. And if you can do crazy additional things, do crazy additional things, but then do that. And then start building out epic productions so that you can boost, you can get that turbo to your 120 miles an hour. What other things did you do, Sam? And then I want to top and tail us at the end of this with you speaking to investors and founders and talk about what's the next stage. You've now got to over $1 million a month in revenue. You have got to.
I wish a month, but 100,000 a
Or a
month.
year. I'm sorry, a year. I'm sorry, a year. Yeah, over $1 million a year in revenue, which means you're on a great trajectory going forward. You have phenomenal retention rates within your customers. You have a great sales cycle and a model. You now have a team and a system to maintain it and to be able to grow it. So I want to know where you're going to go to. But before we get there, anything that maybe you think, oh man, I did this thing and it made such
Well,
a great difference.
equity crowdfunding is one thing I could talk about a bit.
Nice. Hit us. I love that.
Yeah. So we've done 3 equity crowdfunding experiences. The first was kind of a dud. We did it on Seed Invest back when they were still doing this sort of thing. And that was in 2019. But then based on that experience, we kind of learned what not to do. And then we got onto Republic, and we did a couple of highly successful raises on Republic. So I absolutely, am a fan of equity crowdfunding. We now have, in addition to over 1,000 customers, we have over 1,000 investors. They're just represented by a couple of lines in our cap table. But that was a great experience, and we're thinking of doing it again, actually, because it was so successful. But equity crowdfunding is a real resource, and it's not free money because you have to work pretty hard for it. But it also makes you sharpen your message and understand how to explain your message to people that may not already be in your industry or be fans or what have you. So it was a great experience for us, and it also created.
I love that. You created. Sorry, I'm literally going to repeat what you were about to say. Keep going, Sam.
Oh no. So you create kind of a closed loop of engagement with your investors. Actually, we're in a B2B software space, so the investors really were not likely to be customers. The best is when your investors can also be customers and also be evangelists for your product. If you're in a consumer segment, and you can get combined purchasers of your product, investors in your company, and evangelists for your company, it's like a trifecta. So but even without that effect, we found it to be a super enjoyable experience, a successful experience, and it generated really $500,000 that helped fund our company. So I can really, and I know you guys have done some too, Brian.
We have, and I love everything you're saying. I think, look, there's 7 or 8 billion people in the world. There's maybe 300 people who know your product, right? Including 2 investors, 12, not Sam, but like everyone, like 12 customers, and like then the prospects who remember your name after you've actually reached out to them. So you have a gap, right? The gap is 300 to like 7 or 8 billion. Like that's your gap. And so your job as an entrepreneur is to close that gap with as many of the best profile customers you can find. That's the job, right? There is no other job really. And so equity crowdfunding, to Sam's point, it has 3 levels. All are upside, right? The first level is if you're got a company whereby you're aligning with the people that are actually going to be putting money into the company, God bless you. That's actually the best in the world, because you're bringing in your folks. But even if you're not, you're still narrowing the gap. Like even if an extra 1,000 people have found out about you, those 1,000 people, they know people, play people, drink with people, have coffee with people, have dinner with people who are all aligned with what you're doing. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. We did it, and it was the best thing. After my TEDx talk, which is an epic production, right? Because it is a booster. I still today get people coming in and saying, we want to take Expert Dojo's investment, even though we're way past accelerator, but because I resonate with the purpose that you have in that speech. That is an epic production, right? But an equity crowdfunding campaign is also an epic production. And it was one of the best things we ever did. It allowed us to express publicly again how we really felt. It reinforced that locally. It is an incredible feel good at the end of it, but it's also a test of what you're really worth. Do you have the chutzpah? Do you have the capability to be able to break through and grind through 1,000 small investors that can put money into your company, and maybe one or two larger ones as well? Do you have it? Most people don't. So I think it's amazing on every level. Amazing for mindset, amazing for honing your skills on outbound, amazing for bringing people into your company, and actually amazing for going after investors that are more aligned with the stage that you're at. Okay, let me check here. Okay, I'm going to throw up 2 or 3 questions, and I want to link back into you, Sam, and we're going to close it out.
Right.
I've heard the same thing about crowdfunding partners, members, or clients as well. They are forgiving and feedback friendly. Yes, they're fantastic.
Yep.
Another one in here as well. What, in your opinion, do larger future investors think if you have a large cap table? First of all, Sam already said it, but I think he passed by it quickly because he and I know what he's talking about. The crowdfunding platforms have become much smarter in their old age. They no longer have 1,000 people on the cap table. Now there is just one, and that would be, if it's WeFunder, it's WeFunder. If it's Start Engine, it's Start Engine. And then they have all of the investors on their table. So there's no downside. You should definitely do it. The biggest thing is, do you have a message which is compelling enough? And do you have access to an audience who want to listen? And then that way, as you spend money, the money exponentially comes back. All right, Sam, I'm bringing it over to you. Finish us off. We went over because it's so many cool stuff that you have. But last 2 or 3 minutes, tell us everything that Axel AI is in the future. Who are you looking for in the form of investors? Who are you looking for in the form of customers? And give us a prophecy of what 5 years out is going to look. What does the year 2030 look like for Axel AI?
So the key thing is that we are at an early stage, and I mean the world is at an early stage in the evolution of both video and AI. Both of those things are exploding. And, you just have to read the headlines to see the AI part, but video also as a communication medium is in a completely different place than it was even 5 years ago. So what's happening is as text and still images become less important, video becomes more and more important. And so large brands, and we have customers like Kellogg's and Coca-Cola, when they need to reach out to an audience, they do it with video. And the videos that they use are culled from an almost infinite variety of sources, plus now with generative AI, maybe some synthesized videos. So tools are going to be needed to put all this together. And the tools that we build with AI that leverage video, we're at the intersection of 2 incredibly fast-growing spaces. So I can not only not tell you where we're going to be in 5 years, I can barely tell you where we're going to be in 5 months, except that it's going to be with significant growth and significant change from where we are today. So it's just an amazing space to be in, and the pace of acceleration is massive.
Incredible. And then, so investors, you're looking for investors next round?
We're actually starting an equity round, and feel free to contact me. My email is sam@axle.ai. Happy to talk to you about the round, and also just stay in touch also for future rounds and potentials as well.
Yeah. And so look, a couple of really important things from me, from a portfolio company. Incredible founder. You've heard all of the things he does on growth. You've heard the things that he does with regards to the actual value to the customers themselves. The company will be cash flow break even by next year, which is what everybody's going to want. We go through difficult times. You want companies that can actually not just survive through them, but thrive through them because they have cash flow. That is the future, my friends. Sam, thank you for joining us. Everybody, hopefully you got some great input from here. I loved the focus on going back to networking, building out there, having the mindset to be able to continually break through, the growth hacks around video, how it's all intertwined in one place. I appreciate you, buddy, and I'm absolutely thrilled with